Folks, this is Tommy Talk. I don't understand why HBO decided to basically make all their stuff Max now. It used to be just HBO, and then it was HBO Max. Well, it was HBO Go, then it was HBO Max, and now it's just Max. And I guess I still use HBO for certain brands and stuff like that. But it used to be that was kind of the name and the image and stuff. And I guess they're trying to do more things in under the HBO umbrella. But it just seems like making a Max original instead of an HBO original, and that seems dumb. And that's been a string of a couple dumb decisions I've thought HBO has done. Another one was canceling Winning Time, which I thought was a really good show after 2 seasons. Obviously, that was about the Lakers, about their rise to glory. Dr. Jerry Buss, Magic Johnson, Kareem, the rivalry between Magic and Larry Bird. It was a really good show, and it really shows the lengths that the Lakers and Dr. Buss went to creating an aura around the Lakers as being, this great franchise, willing to spend the money to be great, spend money to make money. And you see this time and time again in the show, even when they basically broke at the beginning. And that's kind of where we're starting off from today, a little jumping off point. So the Lakers reach out to Dan Hurley. He's won back-to-back national championships at UConn. They're looking for a new head coach after they fired Darvin Ham. They think they have their guy, and obviously it's a very splashy move. The best coach in college basketball. You're going to go get him right after, he wins back-to-back titles, first time since Florida, 06-07. And obviously, it's a real cojones in your hands move right there from the outside looking in. Now, I don't think it was a great idea basketball-wise because college coaches usually don't make it in the NBA. They just don't work. You can go through different examples here. It's more rare for a college coach to fail and for a college coach to succeed in the NBA than to fail, because the failures come a lot. The recent example that really sticks in the mind is John Beilein from Michigan. He jumps from college to the pros, and then next thing you know, he's out in less than a season with the Cavs after a great run with Michigan. So I didn't think it was a good idea in the first place because Dan Hurley, as good of a coach as he is, he also is kind of a yeller, and he seems like a bit of a control guy, and he can't have that much control over an NBA team. He can't be as much of an iron fist, authoritative type, and that seems a little bit more of Dan Hurley's vibe. I don't know how that would work with LeBron James. I don't think LeBron would put up with being yelled at by Dan Hurley or being put under a real Dan Hurley practice. So overall, I didn't think it was a great idea basketball-wise, but it made some sense. And it made sense because the Lakers are the Lakers. They're going to try to make a big splash. Over the years, nothing but the best for the Lakers and stuff like that. Even with a couple of eras where things weren't so great, they still tried within a couple of years to make a big jump, like when they brought in LeBron not too long ago. So, flash forward to yesterday. It comes out that Dan Hurley decides, I'm staying at UConn, which probably the right move. Go for 3 in a row. Probably the best thing for the Lakers as well. But then they come out with what the contract offer was from the Lakers. 6 years, $70 million. When you hear that and you find out that that's not the highest paid coach in the NBA, that wouldn't have made him the highest paid coach. It would have made him the 5th highest paid coach. I have to imagine every Cowboys fan, every Yankees fan, every Duke basketball fan, and Alabama football fan, just their stomachs churned, and Dr. Jerry Buss rolled over in his grave. You go out there and try to make a big move, and when you're on the finish line, you skimp out. You skimp out. Let's be honest. You skimp out. You needed to throw an absolute bag at the man, okay? And you could say, oh, it's $11 million. With taxes, it gets cut down. I know Darren Rovell, and whatever you think about Rovell, he did the calculations and basically said, well, he's going to make just only a couple million more with the Lakers in LA compared to what he's making at UConn because of taxes and stuff. Like, what are you doing if you're the Lakers? You need to go out there and give him the big bucks. If you are in the middle of coaching hell, which they are, they keep firing coaches. Part of that could be LeBron kind of putting it on the coaches instead of putting it on himself. But whatever, that's kind of a theoretical, me just talking the talk type thing. But if you think this is the guy, which they apparently did, you need to make sure he comes to LA by any means necessary. I mean, that's what Jerry Buss would have done. Jerry Buss would have brought him out to LA, showed him a great time, and not let him go back without offering him an ungodly amount of money and put his name on the dotted line. And they didn't do that. They cheaped out. They skimped out on it. And they have only themselves to blame. Only themselves to blame. And now they're going to go for other options. They might go for JJ Redick, which I know my good friend Henry Collins, second week in a row, mentioned him on the podcast. I need to get him back on here. He said, okay, well, how many great podcasters and ESPN personalities have turned into great head coaches? Even though, I mean, the real relevant thing is he was a player, and a lot of the great coaches were players. I mean, if you go through NBA history, a lot of them were. I mean, Phil Jackson, Steve Kerr. But still, if I'm the Lakers, obviously, I think from a basketball perspective, I think it was the right move, or the best thing for them, even if, the move went against what they wanted. However, if you're going to go all in on it, you got to go all in on it. And the great Mike Ehrmantraut once said, no more half measures. No more half measures, Walt. The Lakers went with the half measure. They went with the half measure. They went with the half measure, and they got half measure results. I think that's fair to say. Talking about basketball, kind of a psycho thing not to be talking about the important thing in basketball right now, which is the NBA Finals. Boston up 2-0 on the Mavs, going back to Dallas after the first two games. I mean, last week I said that I really like Dallas in this series. That hasn't come to fruition so far. First game, they went down big, they came back, and they ended up losing by 20. And then second game, they kept it close, but it felt like after the first quarter, the Celtics mostly had it. I mean, it is the Celtics bench, largely, and the fact that Luka seems pretty banged up. You've seen before the game, he was bandaged up like that picture of Big Ben at practice, where he has like the boot on and a bunch of bandages on like his shoulder and stuff. That's what he looked like, And Kyrie has been playing great, but Kyrie can't carry the entire team on his shoulders. And yes, game 2 was a lot better than game 1. However, it's been bad times so far. Now, you go back to Dallas. I'm not going to say the series is over. You go back to Dallas. You give yourselves a chance, but it's not looking great. If you were to, and if you're the Celtics, you win one more game and it's over. It's over. The Mavs aren't coming back from a 3-0 deficit. They just aren't, especially without the depth in their roster that the Celtics have, And Derek White played, he started off the game not that well. I criticized him on Twitter about the start of his game and about his hairdo. He cut it all off, and now I describe it as a megamind head. And listen, I love Derek White. I love Derek White. Love Derek White. Me and him are both forever Buffs, alumni of the University of Colorado. Let's go Buffs. But I didn't like what he did with his hair, but whatever. He finished it off with obviously a huge block there at the end, and he's a great player, especially on the defensive end. I think the Mavs, they need more building. They're not ready yet. They need more depth on the bench. However, I'm not going to completely sell them out now. I mean, you take two in Dallas and you don't know, but I think it's nearly over. Nearly over. Flipping to the other side of the finals world, also through 2 games, which I don't know. I can't remember the last time the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup were both so in sync. Because now we've been through 2 games in both Stanley Cup and the NBA Finals, which is crazy. Or the Stanley Cup Final. Florida up 2-0 on Edmonton. I think people after the first game were saying like, oh, well, if you actually watch the game, Edmonton actually played better and stuff like that. Well, okay, congrats. You still lost. You still took an L. I mean, that's what matters here. You're down 0-1. And then last game, and this is the big controversy. So, Leon Draisaitl, or Draisaitl, whatever, hits Barkov. And they think it gives him a concussion. He's the best player for the Panthers. And Draisaitl hits him. They think he has a concussion. When you see it at full speed, it kind of looks like, oh, well, it's just a hit. But when you get in slow motion, you see the fact that he's like jumping up. Like he's intentionally going up on him. And he should definitely be suspended for the rest of the series. My goodness, what a atrocious hit. An atrocious hit. But, now it puts the Panthers in a tough position, a real tough position. They're going to have to go thousands of miles, the longest distance traveled in the history of the Stanley Cup. Not 1,000 miles, sorry, 2,541 miles on a trip to Edmonton. And that's tough enough. Now you're going there without your best player. This is the moment, if you're Edmonton, put up or shut up. I mean, listen, was it dirty what they did to Barkov? Absolutely. Very. And we probably shouldn't forget that. We're just talking about the hockey perspective on it. This is a big come up now. You're going back home ice advantage. You're forcing your opponent to go thousands of miles to play at your place, and they're doing it without their best player. If the Panthers win Game 3 without Barkov, and after going all the way to Edmonton, give them the cup right there. Give them right there, man. Give it to them right there, which would kind of suck. We would get either a sweep or a gentleman's sweep in both the finals and the final at the same time, which I don't love. It's not great. However, I'm saying however in a lot in this episode. However, well, what are you going to do? And then we're going to get back into bitching and moaning about, oh, there's no good sports in the summer, which we can talk about that once these two are over. Hopefully these series step it up a little bit in the upcoming days. Step it up a little bit. And so that way we can actually have an enjoyable series going into the end of June here, or into the mid part of June here. Moving on, Caitlin Clark, back to basketball, women's basketball. Caitlin Clark, obviously we talked about her last week. I mean, I think it's a good thing for the WNBA and women's basketball when, there's a lot of Gavin and John between players and jealousy and straight up delusion when it comes to this. I think it's probably better because it sparks the public discourse, as you might say, which, at the same time now, so it comes out that Caitlin Clark didn't make the U.S. Women's Olympic team. She didn't make it, which kind of a twofold thing here. Number one, obviously, someone said it's not a popularity contest. And they thought that there were 12 better players than her, which I suppose that's not false. However, I don't think it's too far off to say that she's one of the top 12 women's basketball players in America. I don't think that is a wild statement. And national teams have in the past taken on younger players. People forgetting the Dream Team. You had Christian Laettner, 2012. Anthony Davis, now only a few months out of college, was playing for Team USA. So I don't think it would be too much of a stretch to add her. And I think it would have put so many eyes on U.S. women's basketball, which sort of lags behind a lot of the other women's Olympic sports or, women's sports that kind of are competing at an international level, like women's soccer in the U.S. It just does. And part of it is the fact that they win so much. But now you have a golden opportunity with the golden girl of women's basketball, and you shut her out. And I think that was probably an unwise move. At the end of the day, yeah, sure, it's not a popularity contest, but it kind of is. I mean, come on. I mean, let's not be ignorant of reality here, okay? And it's not like they were going to lose because of her. They'll probably win because of her, because she's that great. And yeah, she's new, but I think she deserved to get in there after everything that's gone on and what she's done for women's basketball in the U.S. I think they're going to win anyway. Win with Caitlin. They've won every Olympic gold medal in the last, since the 90s. So, I mean, they're going to win it this year, almost undoubtedly. And I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that Caitlin Clark's one of the top 12 women's basketball players in America, or who are Americans, so go for it. It feels like at this point, there might be a bit of a vendetta, not only amongst the players, but amongst the establishment in women's basketball, which I think is troubling. That's not good for women's basketball. It's good if the players are getting at it with the war of words and stuff like that and on the court. But when the establishment starts to kind of turn against her, that seems bad. It almost seems like there's, in NASCAR and Southern football and stuff like that, it's been said that, there's a good old boys club. Well, now it feels like the good old girls club, the good old girls club, shutting out the newbie because, I don't know, they haven't paid the lumps yet and the fans haven't gone through it with women's basketball, and they're only there for Caitlin Clark instead of, embracing the fact that there are more eyes on women's basketball than ever before. And by the way, credit to Caitlin Clark. Credit to her. She has been just the model of class through all this. Classy, which isn't easy when you're kind of getting hit from all angles. But, hey man, good on you. Good on you. Finally, a special RIP in peace. And 2 weeks in a row I do an RIP in peace, which makes it kind of morbid on this show. But you know what? I'm going to say this. Apollo 8 astronaut William Anders, he circled the moon in 1968 on Apollo 8. Northwest of Seattle, he was flying, I think as part of some type of air thing. He crashes on the water. They believe he's dead. 90 years old, and he was the pilot of the plane. Wow. I mean, listen, obviously extremely sad. I feel bad for his family. I feel bad for him. But what a way to go. What a way to go. For some people, I think it's probably nice and good. Oh, you die, in bed, surrounded by your family. That's pretty cool. But to go out like that, 90 years old, and you go out doing what you love, flying, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty badass way to go. Man, that's not bad. That's a pretty sick way to exit this world. And, that's a life to live right there. That's a life. I mean, more than 50 years ago, you take an incredible photo, like one of the most famous photos ever of the Earth, like Earthrise at the moon, and you conquer space and stuff like that. You come back to Earth, and all the way into your 90s, you're flying. And you go out like that, props to you, man. Props to you. Obviously, you hate to see something like this happen. However, it not the worst way to go. Probably very quick. And you know what? End of the day, you went out in style. At 90 years old. 90 years old, man. Still flying. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe. Tommy Gann on YouTube. Tommy Talk on Apple Podcasts. At Tommy SGAHAN on wherever you social media, including Twitter, Instagram, and the TikTok. Thank you all for listening. This is Tommy Talk. See ya. Bye-bye. Adios, amigos. See you later.